August 15th, 1977. In a field outside Delaware, Ohio, a radio telescope was listening to the sky. There were no astronauts aboard, no cameras pointed towards distant worlds. No one was sitting beneath the stars, waiting for history to happen. The telescope simply watched, as the rotation of Earth carried one narrow strip of the universe through its beam. Most of what it heard was noise. Faint radio static, natural emissions, the ordinary murmur of the cosmos. Then, from somewhere in the direction of Sagittarius, a signal appeared. It grew stronger and stronger, reached an extraordinary peak, then slowly faded away. The entire event lasted 72 seconds. Days later, a volunteer astronomer named Jerry Eman examined the computer printout. Among long columns of numbers and spaces, he saw 6 characters: 6, E, Q, U, J, 5. He circled them in red ink, then wrote one word in the margin. Wow, that single handwritten word would give the signal its name. Nearly half a century later, we still do not know what produced it. We never heard it again. And somewhere on an old sheet of computer paper, 72 seconds of unexplained radio energy continue to haunt astronomy. To understand why the signal mattered, we must return to the beginning of a strange human experiment, the attempt to listen for another civilization. By the 1960s, astronomers had learned that the universe was filled with radio waves. Stars emitted them, galaxies emitted them, clouds of gas, exploding suns, and violent objects in deep space. All left signatures that radio telescopes could detect. But scientists also recognized something else. Radio waves could carry information. Humanity already used them for television, navigation, radar, and communication. If another technological civilization existed, perhaps it would use them too. Maybe it would transmit deliberately. Maybe its signals would leak accidentally into space. Or perhaps, somewhere, a civilization would choose a frequency, aim towards a nearby star, and wait. The problem was almost unimaginably large. There were billions of possible stars, billions of possible frequencies, and no guarantee that anyone was transmitting at the exact moment we happened to listen. Searching for another civilization was like standing beside an ocean, removing one cup of water, and deciding whether the ocean contained fish. Yet people began searching. One of the most important early listening stations was the Ohio State University Radio Observatory. Most people knew it by a simpler name, Big Ear. It did not resemble the giant movable dishes seen at many observatories. Big Ear was enormous, but largely fixed. It used a broad, flat collecting area and 2 great reflectors to receive radio energy from the sky. Earth's rotation did the scanning. As the planet turned, different parts of the heavens drifted through the telescope's narrow field of view. The observatory initially mapped natural radio sources, but during the 1970s, it began one of the longest-running searches for extraterrestrial radio signals ever attempted. Computers monitored dozens of channels, looking for something unusual, especially a strong narrowband signal. Natural objects usually spread radio energy across a broad range of frequencies. A narrow signal concentrated into a very small frequency range would be more difficult to explain. Human transmitters often behave that way, a precise station on a radio dial, rather than a roar across the entire spectrum. The researchers paid particular attention to frequencies near what astronomers called the hydrogen line. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. It naturally emits radio energy at a wavelength of about 21 centimeters. Some SETI researchers wondered whether advanced civilizations might recognize this frequency as a kind of universal landmark. A meeting place on the cosmic radio dial, a frequency any astronomer on any world could discover. Big Ear listened near that quiet, scientifically meaningful region. Night after night, the telescope searched. Most of the time, it found nothing extraordinary. Then came August 15, 1977. The signal arrived while the telescope was conducting its ordinary survey. Nobody heard it through headphones. No dramatic sound filled a control room. The event was recorded automatically as a sequence of characters printed onto paper. At Big Ear, signal intensity was represented using numbers and letters. Low values appeared as digits. As the strength rose beyond 9, the system used letters. A meant 10, B meant 11, and so on. The 6 characters, 6EQUJ5, recorded how the signal changed across 6 consecutive measurements. It began moderately strong, then rose rapidly. The letter U represented the peak, more than 30 times stronger than the surrounding background noise. Then the signal weakened. J5, that shape was important. It rose and fell almost exactly as a distant fixed source should, as Earth's rotation carried it through the telescope's beam. The signal did not appear to follow an aircraft. It did not linger like a local transmitter. It entered, peaked, and departed, as though it had come from a particular point in the sky. And Big Ear could not keep following it. The telescope was fixed. The source passed through the beam, then moved beyond it. 72 seconds was roughly the maximum time a celestial source could remain visible during one pass. Whatever the signal was, it behaved as though it came from above. Its frequency made it even more intriguing. It appeared close to the hydrogen line, in a region protected from ordinary terrestrial transmission. It was narrow, powerful, and unlike the broad radio emissions normally associated with stars and galaxies. For one brief moment, Big Ear had detected almost exactly the kind of signal SETI researchers hoped to find. But there was a problem. The telescope had 2 receiving beams. A genuine steady source in the sky would normally pass through one, then appear again in the other a few minutes later. The WOW signal appeared in only one. When the second beam reached the same region, there was nothing. Silence. Perhaps the source had switched off. Perhaps it had faded. Perhaps the signal was a short pulse, ending before the second beam arrived. But without a second detection, astronomers could not confirm it. They needed repetition. Science depends on repetition. A single observation can be extraordinary. It can be suggestive. It can alter the direction of an entire search. But until it happens again, it remains difficult to test. Jerry Amon returned to the location in the data. Other astronomers searched the same area. The signal appeared to have come from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, near the plane of the Milky Way. But Big Ear's design left 2 possible positions in the sky. The exact source could not be identified. There were stars in the region, distant systems, background objects, but no visible beacon, no obvious cosmic event, and no second signal. The search continued. Minutes became days. Days became months. Months became years. Radio telescopes examined the region again. More sensitive instruments listened. Different frequencies were searched. Astronomers waited for the same narrow spike, the same rise, the same extraordinary intensity. Nothing returned. The universe had spoken once, then refused to repeat itself. That silence transformed the WOW signal. Had it repeated regularly, it might have become a known astronomical object. Had it been traced to a human transmitter, it might have become a minor technical incident. Instead, it remained balanced between possibilities. Too compelling to forget, too incomplete to understand. Over the decades, scientists proposed explanations. Could it have been terrestrial interference? A transmission from Earth, reflected from space debris, or bounced from a satellite? Human radio contamination is one of the greatest problems in SETI. Signals from aircraft, spacecraft, military systems, and ordinary electronics can imitate something distant. But the WOW signal's protected frequency, its strength pattern, and its apparent behavior in the telescope beam made a simple local explanation difficult, not impossible. but unsatisfying. Could it have been a secret satellite transmission? In 1977, not every spacecraft position or military broadcast was publicly known. Perhaps something human crossed the beam, transmitted briefly, then disappeared. Again, possible, but no responsible source was ever identified. Could it have come from a natural astronomical event? The universe produces phenomena stranger than anything imagined in 1977. Pulsars were once nicknamed little green men because their regular radio pulses seemed almost artificial. Fast radio bursts, discovered decades after the wow signal, can release enormous energy in milliseconds. Magnetars, stellar flares, and exotic clouds of gas can all create unusual radio emissions, but none has provided a universally accepted match for the exact characteristics of the wow signal. Then came the comet hypothesis. In 2017, a researcher proposed that hydrogen surrounding one or more comets could have produced the signal as they passed through the region. The idea received global attention. It offered something every mystery eventually demands. A possible answer: there were comets in the general area of the sky. Their surrounding hydrogen clouds might emit near the relevant frequency. Perhaps Big Ear had simply detected a natural object, not an alien transmitter. But many radio astronomers remained unconvinced. Cometary hydrogen typically produces broad, diffuse, and relatively weak emission. The wow signal was narrow and exceptionally strong. The proposed explanation did not reproduce every feature, and the debate continued. More recently, scientists have suggested another natural possibility. A powerful flare from a magnetar or similar object might have stimulated a cold cloud of hydrogen, producing a brief, narrow radio burst. Under this idea, the signal was not an intentional transmission. It was a rare cosmic amplification event, a natural laser-like flash in radio light created by an unusual alignment of objects and conditions. It is a fascinating possibility, but it too remains unconfirmed. No source has been definitively identified. No identical event has been observed. Every explanation solves part of the mystery, then leaves something behind. Interference explains why it never repeated, but struggles with how celestial it appeared. A natural source explains its place in the sky, but must account for its remarkable narrowness and strength. A deliberate transmission explains those qualities, but raises the largest question of all: why only once? If another civilization sent it, was the signal directed at Earth? Was it a beacon? A radar pulse? Leakage from some unknown technology? Or was it never intended for us at all? Perhaps we intercepted one fragment of a message traveling somewhere else. Perhaps the transmitter moved. Perhaps it stopped. Perhaps it belonged to a civilization that no longer exists. Or perhaps it was never artificial. That is the honest answer. We do not know. The wow signal is often described as the strongest candidate ever detected for an extraterrestrial radio transmission. But a candidate is not a discovery. There was no message hidden inside 6EQUJ5. No voice, no mathematical pattern, no coordinates. Those 6 characters only recorded strength. They did not say hello. They did not identify their source. They did not prove that anyone was there.